So we are at 9:01 a.m. in Toronto area. So we are at various points in time around the globe. So I'm going to get things started. We always say good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, because we are spanning a lot of time zones. So thank you for figuring out GMT and getting involved. This is the International Roundtable webinar, and we're having an Asian focus, Asian Australian focus. So we've had 3 of these webinars now. The IRT is an event which we've run 12 or 13 around the globe over the last 15 or 20 years. COVID interrupted that get together, and we're kind of actively looking to get back onto some sort of physical events in 2025. In the meantime, Hayden and I with Auto Recycling World are kind of resurrecting the IRT, the value of information exchange, and trying to harness these sorts of virtual webinars to just bring the world together, share information, and just sort of keep building. So that's kind of the backdrop to kind of why we're doing this. I think we've got about 15 countries signed up for the webinar. I think we're up to almost 60 people involved. And we do record just because it's very early in the morning for some and very late for others. But we really like to have people on for it all. So we have 2 presenters today. We have David Nolan from Australia and Minoru Goko from Japan. And each has got about 20 minutes roughly to kind of go through some of their presentations. We've got another 20 minutes at the back end to talk about any questions. There's a chat feature that if you do have questions during a presentation, you wanted to upload it, please do so, and Hayden will try to manage that process at the back end. Both of the presentations we will push out to people who have signed up so that the data involved will be available. But I'm going to turn things over to David. David, did you want to share your screen, or did you want me to do it?
I'll share. And
I forgot how I set that up. I usually do that before.
Down to the bottom, share.
There, you should have it available to you now, David. And just as way of introduction, David Nolan runs the Auto Recycling Association of Australia. I'm not entirely sure I got the acronym right there, but I've known David for probably 15 or 20 years. He's been to so many of the IRTs, and as well as the Asian Automotive Environmental Forum, which acts as a proxy for some of the global activity that is going on. So
am I sharing now, Steve?
not yet. Your Zoom screen came up.
I'm showing it as sharing, but
let me see if I can grab it and advance for you. Is that
okay?
Let me just play from start. Is that showing up for people? Should be the logo of the
I'm seeing it.
Okay. Yep. So yeah, maybe just flag me to kind of move along as you
yeah, look, I'm going to move pretty quickly through this, so I don't think I'll be taking 20 minutes, but only to indicate a population of about 26 million and about 20 million registered vehicles on the road. For industry revenue, about 1.25 billion, 1,800 businesses scattered around Australia, employing about 4,500 people, and 800,000 vehicles scrapped annually. So it's an overview, Steve. And the next slide back one. So it's a fragmented industry, meaning very low cost of entry, easy to open up a yard, and it leads to a very large number of very small businesses. About 50% of the industry revenue, obviously for a lot of businesses, probably 90% of their revenue comes from used parts dealing. But from an industry perspective, probably about 50% from parts. A significant proportion of businesses are exporter only or primarily, and then scrapping make up about 40% of the industry revenue. Importing new and used car parts, a small proportion of the total revenue, and then service, repair, installation, and flipping of cars make up the balance. So in terms of the way the industry evolved through from the probably much over the last 70 years, we had a significant manufacturing industry with General Motors and Ford being the principal manufacturers here. Auto recycling was a informal backyard activity in the early years, and it was mainly focused on small volumes of second-hand part sales and metal recovery. So next slide. During the 70s, we started to import vehicles from Japan. We're a right-hand drive country, as is Japan, so it was fairly easy to bring the vehicles here ready to operate on Australian roads. We started increasing the volume of second-hand parts that were imported from Japan through the 1970s. The issue of of brokering of parts between businesses became really critical to the success of the industry, and voice hotline systems started to become prominent in the capital cities in particular, to enable brokering of parts. We saw the initial introduction of inventory management systems through the 1980s. These were very local systems, not networked. So the next slide. Through the 1990s and the early 2000s, that was probably the most successful era for auto recycling. The profits were very good. The industry operated predominantly on cash transactions, so the government didn't see too much of that. We did see a significant expansion of the use of technology through the 90s. And then as we moved into 2005, 2010, the industry became more international rather than everything being focused on local manufacture or importing of vehicles. We saw a greater focus on export, either whole cars, half cuts, or drivetrains, particularly to the Middle East and some Asian centres, Malaysia in particular, either whole cars or half cuts or engine transmission drivetrains. And we also saw significant numbers of operators from the Middle East opening yards in Australia and competing for salvage against established businesses. That really presented some significant challenge for existing businesses through that era. We saw what I'd call international standard business management systems, the likes of the Pinnacles, networked hundreds of businesses starting to emerge in Australia. And through the last decade or so, as we've all seen, significant reliance on technologies such as WhatsApp, Google Search, eBay, and Facebook Marketplace as big parts selling platforms. So in terms of the future, the role of government and manufacturers is something that we expect to see increasing role and increasing impact in the industry over the next decade or so. The transition to electric vehicles is the most important element of change. The regulatory and environmental compliance will also be a significant feature of the next decade or so, and changing role of technology. We probably have 25% of the total number of businesses in Australia who are using network technology now, and that will increase substantially over the next decade, next few years in particular. We think that, from an industry perspective, there'll be a greater internationalization in the use of those technologies. We will see significant changes through artificial intelligence within our industry. I think that that'll impact the way that we sell parts, as well as changing the way that the interchange platforms operate. The AI capabilities will effectively take over what interchange is doing in a number of areas. So looking at the transition to electric vehicles, I think we expect to see a gradual change over the next 5 years, but then a very, very significant change from 2030 onwards. And it will impact the viability of, or the way in which virtually every business in the industry operates, in our view. It's right now, as a starting point, we're seeing a lot of businesses that just aren't interested in buying EV salvage. It's too difficult to deal with, too much hassle and too much uncertainty around the commercial benefits that will be delivered. And that's in an environment right now where, the batteries are sold in what you'd call an open market. There's no regulation of any form around the handling and sale of batteries. So right now, as we know, a very high proportion of the income for auto recycling businesses comes from the sale of engines, transmissions, and mechanical components. And the big question is, what do we expect, or what will be the impact on the income that an auto recycler receives from the sale of a battery and other EV components versus the income currently derived from engine and transmission sales? And is it likely that there will be some parallel in terms of the proportion of recycler revenue that comes from selling batteries and EV components versus that currently derived from engines and transmissions? So, and the businesses, each business is really going to need to look at, their own perspective on how the domestic market for engines and transmissions might change, how the export market might change, And as I mentioned earlier, a very high proportion of the industry revenue comes from export of engines, transmissions, and half guts. So how that will react to the changing incidence of EVs over the next few years, we're not sure about. The buying price for salvage for EVs versus ICE, I've already mentioned that. And I think it'd be great to hear from others who have more data. Carpart and others would have a much better understanding of what is happening with EV salvage prices. But in regard to ICE inventory, as the combustion engine fleet ages, how will that affect the market pricing for engines, transmissions? Will they increase or decrease in value? And how do we clear aged inventory, either in local markets or export markets? I think they're some of the big challenges of transmission. In regard to pricing of EV batteries, we really don't know whether there'll be a free market operating for the sale of EV batteries, or whether it'll be a controlled market with the OEMs influencing salvage prices through EPR or product stewardship schemes. And certainly with the EU regulation and the responsibility the EU regulation places on manufacturers, I think it's increasingly likely that the OEMs will substantially influence the salvage pricing for EV batteries, and that's something that is really going to impact us, Australia, but also all of the other IRT member countries. And I think, Steve, if we move to the next slide, we are currently implementing online training for auto recyclers. As much as we'd like to be able to enable face-to-face training in the majority of establishments, the fact is that the geographic spread of Australia makes that very difficult. And the only way that we can really ensure that every business gets an element of awareness and basic training is through online delivery. We have asked the manufacturers in Australia to support Australian access to the IDA system. That's the International Dismantling Information System. And I think the IRT can play a role in assisting the adoption of that, and the training the role that can play in training is also something that the IET can promote. And I think the next slide, Steve, just talks more about for those who haven't seen the IDA system, the URL is showing there. It's established under EU regulation. It's a central repository for the manufacturers to add information relating to ELV processing, and manufacturers from Europe, Japan, Korea, Malaysia, India, China, the USA contribute data to that. So I think that's the content that I wanted to cover, and happy to answer any questions or have further discussion after Minoru's presentation. So thanks, Steve.
Okay, thank you, David. And we are fielding questions in the chat if you wanted to drop them in there. I think Hayden's kind of monitoring those, and we're going to bring them up near the end. So please make some notes, and we may have some time for some discussion directly with participants. So yeah, keep using the chat, and thank you for that, David. It's remarkable how I could probably make that presentation, just change the word Canada for Australia, and it'd be like, yep. There's a tremendous amount of overlap there. I'm going to turn things over now to Minoru Goko, who is a professor in Japan, but he's also been extremely active in the automotive sector and with JERA, the Peak Association in Japan. And again, I've known Minoru for probably going on 20 years now as an IRT participant, and again at the Asian Automotive Environmental Forum. So Minoru, I don't know if we've figured out screen sharing, whether you can do that or whether you want me to do it. And
please you do that. Yeah.
Okay, let me just pull that up.
Yeah. PDF slide.
Yeah. There, is that showing up for everyone?
Wonderful. Yeah.
Okay, so just, let me know
Okay,
when
I start
Oh.
next page. Yes.
Yeah,
So, general information, 2 page, page 2.
Yeah, sorry, it went directly into slideshow mode. So let me just go. Okay.
Oh, yes, wonderful. So general information 1, 82.8 million cars running in Japan in March this year. The number of cars in the world exceeds 1.5 billion. 8.57 million Japan brand car production a year in Japan. And nearly half of these cars are exported. 0.78 million new car sales in last year. So 80 million Japan brand car production a year in overseas. With the total global car production, 23 million Japan brand car. This world market share of approximately 30%. Car production is emerging countries exceed that of developed countries. China now 26 million first place, India 4.3 million fourth place. Car production in ASEAN countries also increased to 3.5 million. Please next. Automotive industry in Japan, 1.7 million HV, PHV, EV, FCV, and clean diesel car sales in last year. Nearly 48% of them are family cars. So EV mean battery EV, HV mean hybrid vehicle is called same meaning HEV, equal internal combustion engine plus electric motor. PHEV, plug-in hybrid vehicles, equal HV plus electric charging plug. 3.5 million used cars were sold, registered in last year. Due to the vehicle deregistration system, the boundary between ELVs and the used car is unclear in Japan. Average vehicle usage is 30 years. 2.7 million ELVs in 2022, the same as last year, 2023. 1.2 million used car from Japan. Actually, this last year number is 1.5 million used car export from Japan, including 130,000 HV and EV. So more than 4,000 ELV recyclers in Japan now. SR recycling rate is more than 95% in Japan. Yes, next. So Japanese ELV recyclers also getting into other auto business. To become ELVs, there are mainly 2 types of vehicle deregistration in Japan: permanent the registration must be ELV. Temporary, the registration, select whether use the car or ELV. Due to card registration system, the boundary between used car and ELV is unclear. Therefore, the number of ELV recyclers are getting into business of car repair shop, car garage, recycle parts sales, used car sales, and rent a car at their own shop or and stores. Yeah, next, please. So please look at this chart. End user and the left side, end user, car of end user go to new car dealer, used car dealer, maintenance garage, insurance company. Some cars go to directly ELB recyclers. And user's car go to car auction through new car dealer, used car dealer, maintenance garage, insurance company. So then new car dealer, used car dealer, maintenance garage buy the car from used car auction. Some cars from some car ELV recyclers buy ELV from used car auction. So that's why ELV is 2.7 million ELV to the recyclers. The other cars go to other country, nearly now last year 1.5 million used car go to other countries. So reuse used parts 20 to 30%, and the resource recycling 50%. For example, catalyst, copper, others, and the metal scrap 50 to 60%. This metal scrap go to shredder. So resource recycling 50 to 55, SR 70%, landfill only 5%. Therefore, current recycling rate 95%. Yeah. Trend before and after pandemic, ELB collection, auto recycling data from auto recycling center, government organization, recycle center, electronic manifest implementation. So before pandemic, compared to before pandemic, in 2022, the number of ELB collection degrees about 90%. 2022 is 2.7 million. Before pandemic, 2019 was 3.5 millions. Okay, next, please, next. Number of ELBs in Japan is on downward trend compared to the past, making it difficult for small and medium-sized ELB recyclers other than NPO JARA members to secure ELBs. In addition, one of the factors that makes it difficult to secure ELBs is that former overseas used parts buyers are now establishing own company in Japan to obtain ELBs themselves for their overseas business. And statistics says number of ELBs in Japan trends to increase around March every year. But the number in last year will be almost the same as in 2022. So 2.7. Trend before after pandemic. New car sales. Compared to before pandemic, new car sales decreased by about 30% in 2022. So 4.3 3 million. Next. Proportion of new car sales by fuel type. Only standard passenger car. In last year, light vehicles, it's called K cars, are not included. Gasoline engine is 35.77%. Hybrid vehicles, HEV, 55.07%. PHEV, 1.97%. EV, only 1.62%. Look at the FCV, only 0.02%. Please, next. So new EV and PHEV legislation, the market share in the world. In some European and Nordic countries, the share of EVs exceeds 40%, but in Japan, it is only 1.66%. Next. Next page. New EV sales share in 2023 was 88,535 cars. This is approximately 2.2% of all new car sales in last year. This number, 2.22%, including light vehicles, it's called K cars, EV. Next. The proportion of new HV is domestic passenger cars with car sales in 2023 was exceed 50%. As such, HEV are mainstream in Japan with overwhelmingly high sales numbers and high resale value for used car. Currently, new OEM parts are expensive in Japan, so ELV recyclers are actively producing and selling recycled parts, HEV parts. In addition, there are still concerns about fires caused by lithium battery in EV. In Japan, where residential areas are densely populated, there are currently no legal measures in place to provide comprehension and event that house, including neighboring houses, is burned down in an EV fire. So requirement for disassembly station and employees for EV and HV dismantling. Although not regularly maintained, this work is performed by person trained in the handling of high voltage equipment for EV and HV. So in the automotive maintenance, however, in the automotive maintenance industry in Japan, workers involved in the maintenance work on HEV, PHEV, EV, FCV, they must receive special training in low voltage electric work. Low voltage, meaning of low voltage in Japan is a direct current 750%, less than 750 volts. The 600 volts for alternative currents. So in case of lithium battery, the large number and weight, large size and the weight of the lithium battery would be required the know-how to lift and safely removed. So what's the economic condition? Please, 13. What's the economic condition for transfer of batteries from EVs? Who pay is whom? So there should be no specific legal requirement. They can say lithium battery, so there are no discussion about who pays whom in Japan. Yes. Next page. Let's take a look at the current used car price of FCV EV hybrid vehicles. So new Toyota Mirai new price was nearly 50,000 US dollar. But actually price used Mirai price is $5,000. Model year 2050. Mileage only 12,000 kilometers. Because the resale value is low due to the lack of hydrogen station. The number of vehicle driven is low, the volume of recycled parts production is low, and the recyclers are not interested. Yeah, next page. How about used EV sales? So Nissan Leaf. Please look at Nissan Leaf, the first model, previous model ZE0. Price only 675. New price is nearly 30,000 US dollar. But now price only 675. A model 2012 and mileage 87,000 kilometers. So actual model release Nissan Leaf model ZE1 price is $5,100. Model year 2070 49,000 kilometers. So Nissan because there's a reason, in addition to the short actual driving distance and the lack of charging station. But the sales value is low due to the problem with the dry battery and the inverter. Used HEV, for example, Toyota Prius. Please look at model 50. Price is new Nissan, new Toyota Prius at $20,000 US dollar. So now 8,200 year 2015, 207,000 kilometers. And previous model Prius model 30 price 6,800. Model year 2015, 88,000 kilometers. So a new model fuel consumption is 30 kilometers per liter, and also adapt HEV power supply mode for emergency. Yeah, please, next. In addition to EVs and HEVs in Japan, there is also the choice of light cars called K car. Engine volume 0.66 liter, length 3.4 meter, weight 850 kilogram. So K car, you choose gasoline engine, hybrid, and EV now, which offer the same quality as regular cars in terms of environmental friendliness, fuel consumption of 30 kilometer per liter. Not L, per liter. Safety emergency stop device. And the comfort, automatic door, and the cost, new K-car price, $6,700 US to $30,500 US, and with low taxes. Yeah, next. So the number of new light car K-car sales in 2023 last year was 1.75 million. There are over 30 million K-car in use in Japan. This accounts for approximately 40% of the total number of K-car owned, number of car owned. As a daily necessity, K-car are popular in rural areas where public transport is poor. K-car are relatively small and convenient for daily shopping and commuting to work or school. And more than 6% of users are female. Of those households that own K-car, approximately 70% also own another car. However, K-car recycling is low profit for recyclers. So typical ATFs in Japan, ERVs come from customer, car dealers, car repair shop, car auction, insurance company, NPO JARA members, company accept 5,000 to 30,000 ERVs a year. ERV condition check, data collection, input tablet device, airbag deployment, drainage of fuel, oils, refrigerant, necessary parts disassembly. And next. Parts condition check, parts data input to computer inventory system, clean up, remove the parts, taking photo and the part storage, and sold as a guaranteed automotive recycled parts. The recycled parts, actually 8 million recycled parts in Japan are sold through their own shop and computer network with photo. Like JARA Corporation, this is corporation, Japan Automobile Recyclers Alliance, not Association, Corporation Limited. 300 members, recycle network, including related companies and alliance in Japan. With the trend of circular economy and the SDGs, Japan ELV recyclers promote CO2 reduction advantage of recycled parts by amount comparing to new parts production. Now, customers' image of recycled parts is changing. For example, engine CO2 reduction at 261 kilo. Transmission CO2 reduction 179 kilo, etc. So we recyclers give certificate to our customer this CO2 reduction rate. Yeah, next. Recycled parts are good quality, use the parts, cleaned, inspected, guaranteed, use the parts. The price less than 50% of new parts. Rebuilt Lehman parts are reassembled, recycled parts after changing internal aged parts. Price is nearly 70% of new parts. Major recycled parts business is B2B, using the online parts inventory system, but also B2C business at their own parts shop and internet online shopping, like Leco Japan, Yahoo Auction, Rakuten. Data from Leco Japan, Toyota Prius Model 30 HV battery, I found 46 items, average price $500. Toyota Prius Model 51 have lithium battery. I found 61 batteries. Average price is 900. Nissan Leaf Model ZE0 EV battery, 22 items. Average price 1,000. Nissan Leaf Model ZE1 EV battery, 7 items. Average price 3,500. Other disassembled parts which no market in Japan go to other countries without clean inspection and guarantee. Most progressive ARB recyclers, 80% of recycled parts gross sales are from computer online sales. Japan Automotive Recyclers Alliance Corporation Limited generate 200 million in monthly sales, $200 million monthly sales through online transactions or alone. Also, this business contributes standardization of recycled parts quality and the transparency of recycled business. So improving public image and the ERB recycler social status. So Reco Japan in Japan, 1.2 million recycled parts with picture. As you know, Kappas.com in US, 200 million recycled parts with live chat. After disassemble recycled parts, rest such as body, chassis, electric wire, disassembled by Kobelco MDF multi-dismantling machine within nearly 20 minutes per car. Afterward, the bodies become cubes by three-way high-pressure press and sent to metal buyer. Electric wire are also separated to pellet of copper and plastics. Domestically operated Kobelco multi-dismantling machine is nearly 600 units. So 70% market share. So you can find, if you check YouTube, you find automotive recyclers work. So Japan automotive recycling law implemented since 2005. On average, recycling fee for a small car is now $74. 44 for ASR, $16 for airbag, $40 for refrigerant. Recycling fee for imported cars are higher than Japan-made car. So all car owners, please look at the left. All car owners must be advanced deposit fee, new or used car. So this money, recycle fee, go to government organization, Japan Automotive Recycling Center. So this Japan Automotive Recycling Center now owns $6 billion US. So recycle fee go to use for recycling airbag, refrigerant, shredder, dust. On the other hand, if car go to other country, this recycling fee pay back to car exporter. Therefore, after recycling law implementation, car export was increased. Increased. So 1.5 million used car export from Japan, including 130,000 HV and EV. So among the brand used car that's deserve ELV. So this is one of issues for our industry. Review of Japanese ELV recycling law. A review of method of appropriating recycling fee for own vehicles. Abolition of the export refund system. It means payback system to car exporter. Issue of recycling fees during the period of used car circulation. Issues of labor and environmental burden, working condition in business operation of hauling automotive recycler licensed in Japan. Now, hauling automotive recycler, number of hauling automotive recycler is increasing. There are concerns about changes in business player in the automotive industry and impact on the automotive recycled parts sales due to the new automotive era like IoT, cars, EV, and autonomous driving. So resource, plastic and glass recovery incentive system would be introduced at time of the 2026 manifest system renewal as a response to carbon neutrality. Yeah. So Japan ELV recycler must address in the future. The Japanese ELV recycler continue to evolve. There were waste disposal, material recycle parts producer, domestic e-commerce player willing to challenge the Asian ELV recycling business. The industry waste will be increased to twice the current level in 2050 worldwide. In emerging countries and developing countries, they are concerned about environmental pollution due to insufficient response in recycling, including ELV recycling. Therefore, a Japanese ELV recycler can contribute to these countries through the automotive recycling business and a future issue. And also, ELV recycling industry is an industry that serves as a vein of social infrastructure. And in the event of disasters such as typhoon, tornadoes, forest fires, flood, landslide, earthquake, tsunami, it plays a role in removing damaged vehicles in cooperation with national and local government. So this is final page slide topics. Last year, July, NPO JALA 20th anniversary event, NPO JALA Environmental Forum was held in Hiroshima with participation from Japan, South Korea, China, Australia, and 40 delegates from Malaysia. Totally gathered 98 participants. On the first day, factory tour, we visited two factories, Kobelco Construction Machinery and Yamaco Corporation, which is one of the leading automotive recycler in Western Japan and known as a Mazda Group company. Yamaco Corporation aims to be cleanest recycle developer in Japan and is engaged in the processing of raw material for steel manufacturing, ELV recycling, construction scrap, vending machine and OA equipment, and domestic and international recycle parts sales. Yamaco is developing closed recycle and also try to tackle horizontal recycle in which used material are reused in the same new products. For example, scrapped casting suspension to be new casting suspension. So horizontal recycling means the perfection of the circular economy. Okay, thank you so much. Sorry if I
Thank you,
no,
Minoru.
sorry.
And the back end of Minoru's presentation, which again I will send out, has a lot of great pictures from the AAEF that was held in Malaysia. So I'll like I say, I'll be sending those out. So thank you very much to both of our presenters. And Hayden, we're running a little bit late, but I believe we got a bit of time for, I saw a couple of questions in the chat. Did you want to go through some of those before I ask all my questions? But I can do
I've got
that
my own questions as well, Steve. But thank you both of you for some great presentations. Lots of information to take in as always. I'm going to go straight to the questions that are being asked by the people who've turned up today. So this is from Cow Peng Yak. I hope I got that right. This is for you, David. How many EV vehicles in Australia, and how is the battery recycled? You know, I know that's quite a big question, how they are recycled. So if you can answer that as quickly as possible.
Yeah, so about 180,000 EVs, and that's about 1% of the car fleet in Australia. So still a very low proportion. Battery recycle, there's two ways. One is just selling on the open market. Some sold as replacement batteries, some sold for use other than in vehicles, supplementing household solar storage systems, etc. And but probably half of them are taken back by manufacturers, albeit that the compensation offered is pretty low, a couple of $100 type thing, but the manufacturers will take back those batteries and provide some compensation to the recycler.
Okay. Sorry.
And yeah, so that answers the question, I think.
No, that's great. That's a great answer. Before I ask Andy's question, I'm gonna ask Minoru. Minoru, illegal operators in Japan? Is there a problem with illegal operators? I know in other countries it still resonates. What about Japan itself? Oh, you're on mute, I think, Minoru.
Oh, sorry. Oh, yeah. Please ask me again. Yes.
Yeah, sure. Illegal operators in Japan. I know other countries have problems. What about Japan?
Yes, exist. We have 4,000 legal recyclers, 4,000, but many illegal recyclers, especially from Asian countries. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
this leads into Andy's question, which is a great question. Legislation in any country is only as good as enforcement. We were talking about this yesterday, wasn't we, Andy? How good is enforcement of ELV and recycling legislation in Australia and Japan? What can the industry do to improve enforcement and compliance with legislation? Let's carry on with Minoru. Would you like to answer that first?
Oh, please say again. Sorry.
Sorry, yes. So legislation is very important.
Mhm.
And to have good enforcement, we need that legislation. So how good is the enforcement of that legislation happens in Japan? And what
You mean
industry?
legislation? You
Sorry?
mean legislation for legal recycler?
Yes, do you have legislation? But the question I think Andy wants to get to is how well is that enforced?
Oh, because we don't work without authorization, a very strict authorization. So if people want to seriously recycling business, so they naturally get authorization from the government. But some small small recycler or small scrap yard without regulation, without authorization. Yeah.
Okay. So, and David, what about you in Australia? You know, how good is enforcement when it comes to illegals?
Well, Andy, I'd love to bring you here and take a walk around some of the yards here, and you'd get a very good impression. Enforcement is very poor, very, very poor. We have 3 levels of government in Australia for a population of 25 million. It's quite ridiculous. The national government sets a high-level environmental sort of framework for regulation. There are 8 state or territory governments, and the environmental protection authorities work under the umbrella of those state governments. And then there are hundreds of local government bodies that enforce, planning and business permit type regulations. With so many levels of government, still the on the ground enforcement is minimal, and so it's very low cost to set up a business. It's just buy a yard, start putting vehicles in there, and put containers in there to be able to ship parts internationally, and you can happily go on like that for years without much government enforcement. So it's sort of a vicious cycle, Andy. You can't get taxes or fees from those businesses, so government can't fund enforcement agencies. So the reality is that, as I said, the level of enforcement within the industry is very low.
Okay, thanks, David. Let's jump now to Jeff Schroeder over there in America. He asks, can you discuss net zero initiatives in both Japan and Australia itself? David, would you like to answer that one first, and then Minoru?
I'll reply, but Jeff, I'd love to ask you a question also later. The net zero initiatives are being implemented at the manufacturer level, or the importer level, and so there are regulations that will come into effect over the next few years that will require vehicle manufacturers to effectively favour net zero vehicles over other forms of vehicles, which effectively means that it massively promotes electric vehicles in any of their forms over combustion engine vehicles. And the effect of that will be that within a few years, we'll see a very high proportion of hybrid vehicles, not so much EVs, but very high proportion of hybrid vehicles being sold in the new vehicle sales, with a sharp reduction in the number of combustion engine vehicles. The big challenge really are as the US would term them, the trucks, the larger utility type vehicles, but even those, the big Toyotas and Fords, etc., are all leading toward hybrid vehicles for their future fleet.
Okay, Minoru, how is Japan?
Yeah,
Sorry.
the zero initiative, manufacturers and the government talking about a lot, but our recycling industry people not talk about that. Yeah.
Okay. Steve, do you have any? I've got some questions. Sorry.
Our recent topics is resource recovery incentive system. So in 2026, yeah. So we should recycle plastic and glass. This is our important issue now.
And when in 2026?
Because Japan recycling law or renewal time.
Okay, we'll have the renewal.
That's why.
Okay, thanks, Minoru. Steve, I've got some questions. Do you have any questions
Well,
or anybody else would like to ask
just
some?
a follow-up question to David about the net zero. So there are standards for emissions from vehicles. But I'm betting that Jeff was driving at. Are there any connections between recycled part usage and any net zero initiatives, whether at the insurance level, repair network level? Is sort of any kind of pulls to having more recycled parts usage because of the positive impact on greenhouse gases? Is there anything at the parts level kind of emerging, being talked about, batted around?
The answer is nothing that impacts the auto recycling industry, on a global basis in Australia. There's no significant initiatives at all.
Okay. Just in Canada, we're being pulled into very lucrative conversations with the insurance industry, who have significant net zero reporting requirements, and they've identified increasing recycled parts usage as one of the tools to get them there. So that's some of the kind of collaboration that the UK is doing some good work on identifying it, and actually the whole GHG footprint of a recycled part was initiated in Japan with the Waseda study that we're all trying to model and enhance and grow a little bit, because it ties our industry into these larger global trends of environmental responsibility.
Okay, thanks, Steve. I've got a quick question about how much is digitalization and AI being embraced in Japan and Australia, and if it is being embraced, is it being sort of pushed forward by the vehicle recyclers with their requests, or are we sort of using eBay, etc., etc.? So how much are we utilizing the opportunity that digitalization and AI can bring to our industry?
So I was made a presentation previous ago. So to find damaged ELV's price, so we use a mobile phone to touch to find the price. Yeah. I told about a UK company, AI company, Tractable. Yeah.
Okay.
So so we are trying to use this system. Yeah. Because Tractable Japan office is same office on our association. So we talk a lot. Yes. Yes.
Oh, right. So you're very close together then, so you can really.
Yes. Very close.
I did not know.
The Tractable is all Japanese insurance company use Tractable now to assess damaged vehicles.
Yeah, I think Tractable, one of the first companies to start really looking at and utilizing it quite a while back, really. But wow, so much has happened in that time when they first started out. What we could do these days.
So in your future, we can assess the ELV price through the mobile phone, through the AI image, of Tractable.
And maybe, David, what about sort of selling parts? Being able to use that AI interchange, being able to get products straight out onto the marketplaces as soon as possible. How is that being utilized over there in Australia?
Look, the answer is that there's no evidence of that happening as yet, but I think that over the next year or two, it'll definitely start to impact the industry as as the AI engines in Google and Microsoft searches, etc., become more sophisticated. That will match a wider range of parts to buyer requests, and I think that it'll also help buyers, identify effectively interchangeable parts, which they can't now. The only people who can really identify interchangeable parts are recyclers using a formal interchange system. But once the AI engines identify the fact that a Mazda 323 starter motor is the same across a whole raft of Mazdas as well as Nissans and Toyotas, then that will definitely have some impact within the second-hand parts sales industry.
Of course. I think AI is such an interesting thing at the moment within the sector. And Steve and I are always thinking about topics to cover with these webinars. So maybe AI is something that you guys might be interested to find out more about, and how we can utilize it and how it really works. So maybe that's something that we'll look into in the future for a future.
I made a note of that one because you mentioned AI in relation to interchange, and interchange is an enormous profit center for North American auto recyclers. And we sell a lot of parts because Hollander understands all that interchange, and Car Parts doing a lot of great work there as well. But over time, our interchange access is declining, and it'd be interesting to see, because so many people now are dealing in OEM parts and different things that eventually you think AI may be able to figure out some of those connections.
Hopefully.
Totally agree.
And also, if anyone has any requests for conversations, for topics that you'd like us to sort of dive deeper into, please feel free to get in touch with either Steve or myself, and we'll do our best to find the right people to talk about this. And so, please, help us to find out the topics that you want to know more about within the IRT. There's a question here for Jeff. Jeff, I'm not going to ask you to answer it because it's quite a biggie, but what data is coming forward in trends for second-hand price for electric vehicles? I think we're going to have to hold that back to you, Jeff, and we're going to have you up on stage, I think, and answer that in a presentation. So shake your head if you want, nod your head if you want, if you agree to that, and then maybe we'll see you. Oh, he's just disappeared straight away.
No, sure, and I just put a quick comment in the chat. It's really early to tell, and I think the price of used EV vehicles is starting to come down, which is really will help the supply. We don't really see a large supply yet of the EV parts, so it's just sort of starting to happen in the US.
Okay, well, maybe we'll hold that back for another time, but that sounds like a good subject to have. Roger's just asked this question, and I wish I hadn't. Is IRT for 2025 still first week of June? It was. Last time we spoke, we did have the dates booked in, but we found out that we clashed with another event. So we've had to sort of stop there, and it's been very, very difficult trying to find a new date. We hope that it could be early autumn. We are just having to finalize that booking and to make sure that it is definitely booked in, that we haven't overlooked another event. I'm not mentioning any names of what happened. An event which traditionally happens in 1 month or one part of the year decided to change to another, and thankfully we did find out before it was too late because they haven't announced yet. So please bear with us. The intention is to get everyone in a room talking amongst themselves and really making the IRT what it was in the early days, which is about everyone being together and having that support. So we are endeavoring to do our best to make that happen. It's not an easy task, but it will happen. Oh, yes, and brilliant. The AAEF will be in China in October 2025. Do you know the exact date? These are the things that we need to know when we the IRT. This is welcome to our world, trying to look at diaries and everything. Just even having that is just brilliant. That's
so I've got a feeling it's somewhere around the 10th of October. But
the 10th of, I'm writing that down now. I need to confirm. I need to get in touch with my Chinese.
yeah, I can send you the details of the lady in China who
Yeah.
would be the
Yeah,
primary
that would be-
contact. I think you met her anyway.
I've met her, yes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so,
we're
yeah.
doing some stuff
Yeah,
in China at the
if you
moment.
could encourage that exchange just so that we can tap it into our IRT networks, and because we're kind of looking at what's going on in North America, just making sure that we can travel abroad. But that's I think that these sessions are valuable. You know, I've generated 5 or 6 questions that I'll follow up with David and Minoru. In the in-person IRTs, those are things you manage over coffee and breakfast and on the tours themselves. So there is no replacement, but this is a fantastic avenue. I think with Hayden's sort of expertise and contacts, we've expanded who the IRT is talking to in terms of country representation very well. And I would encourage you to continue to use the likes of Auto Recycling World as a communication vessel to submit articles and ideas and communication. Hayden and I talk often, and we are kind of trying to figure out, yeah, what's that next IRT webinar going to be about? And I think what we're trying to do is flip between these regional sort of focuses and specific topics of, you know, we did electrification, we did sustainability. So I think just we're going to try to bounce back and forth, but we really don't want it to be the Hayden and Steve show, although we do, because we do want to get input from
Steve and Hayden.
everybody. All right, right. Yeah, I'm first. Yeah, stick me ahead. But it's these types of engagements that have led to the UN doing some outreach. So we talked about that just at the start of all this. So and some of you will see a specific data request from ourselves or Hayden, just trying to collect information that we can continue to talk about what's going on in the world. Because I certainly heard a lot of things that'll help Canada, a lot of things that Canada can help other places. And I think I always look upon international activity as peering into the future of what might happen and helping to manage that. So
yeah, if I can just interact, my sort of motto is, you know, we provide Auto Recycling World, we provide news and information to the vehicle recycling community, and I see that community being everything from the manufacturers all the way to the recyclers to the shredders. That community, and it's sharing that information so we understand the challenges and the solutions that we can offer to everybody, or the challenges that we suffer ourselves. But you know, and as I say to everybody, you guys make the news, we just make sure everybody knows about it. And it's always great when people get in touch because they've read something in Auto Recycling World, and I can put them in touch with somebody else, or having a night, you know. After the last IRT presentation, sustainability, I must have had 5 people who wanted to find out more, and we was able to help them out around the world. And you know, Steve and I just love being able to do that and being able to help sort of spread the word of the importance of vehicle recycling, but also how it fits into that community, into that life cycle of a vehicle. So you know, we need your support as much as we will do our best to provide as much as we can for you guys.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah. So, Steve, would you like to close up?
I think I already did. But no,
Okay.
I find them very valuable. And again, we're not necessarily just talking to auto recycling participants. The OEMs are online. They're kind of following us, as are some, you know, major consultancies. So
my next call is with the CEO itself.
and just it's an opportunity to just talk about the industry. And not only do we need to learn from one another, we really need to keep educating and teaching the rest of the world what the great things that you guys do, and you know, we just need to keep talking about it.
Okay.
So
now we will sing the national hymn of all auto recyclers.
We need a song. We need
need
maybe
song.
a secret
Okay.
Don't say
handshake.
things like that to me, Steve, because I'll have a bottle of wine later this weekend, and there'll be a song on the table the next morning. I'll come up with I'll try to do one. Who knows? Okay. Right, close up, Steve.
Thanks, everybody. Really appreciate it.
Have fun.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you later.
Thanks, Hayden. Take care.
Bye.
Sayonara.
Bye.
Sayonara. Yeah.
Bye, Goko-san.
See you, Jeff.
Yeah, thanks, guys. See you,
Bye.
David.
Bye.